Hey, welcome and thanks for joining this very important training on Google Ads. So, Google Ads has played such a critical role in the growth of the majority of basement waterproofing and foundation repair companies. And we have a lot of great stuff to talk about. Some of the topics we're going to be talking about are Google Ads and a word of caution. We're going to be hitting on how pay-per-click and Google Ads can be key to scaling your business, how waterproofing companies hit a like a 5 to 10 return on investment on their spend, and just kind of secrets of setting up high performing campaigns and making sure you have those metrics dialed in, you have the right landing pages, campaign structures, and a whole lot more. I'm really glad you're here. I think this is going to be a really important topic today. It's one that I get asked on about many times. So since this is important, I know we often will play a training or webinar in the background and kind of try to multitask. We tend to miss a lot of information. I've really tried to condense this to give you like high impact content. So if you're able to try to tune out those distractions, because I think I have a lot of good stuff. A quick word about me. If you don't know me, I do own this company, Rainmaker for Contractors. For over 12 years now, we've been serving basement waterproofing and foundation repair contractors throughout the United States. We've won a few awards from Google. I did write a book on the topic of basement waterproofing and internet marketing. It's the only one out there. There's a really good podcast in the basement waterproofing foundation repair space. If you haven't heard it, look it up, give it a chance. I get really good feedback. People say it's kind of the only place that they could listen to shop talk in our space. So it's called Rainmaker for Contractors. Go figure, right? I've been very involved with the Basement Health Association. I'm currently the president, and I've been on the board for 12 to 14 years or so. I've been in this space 27 years. I've owned my own waterproofing company. Very passionate about what I do, and I want to offer you as much value as I can today. I talk to waterproofers throughout the United States all the time, actually, every day. All right, and we have a bonus today. So if you stay till the end, we're going to offer a free 30-minute deep dive analysis of your Google Ads account. And make sure you take advantage of that if you make it to the end. There it is. All right, a word of caution for Google Ads. I want to say it's a very competitive space, and you will be if you're not in Google Ads already, you'll be competing against some pretty well-oiled machine. So one of the things I sometimes see with smaller contractors wanting to get into the space of Google Ads is they are trying to answer the phone and run leads and check on jobs. And I would highly recommend to not do that. You need someone to answer the phone, because if you're not answering the phone, there's 5 other companies, 15 other companies they could call in your area, and customer service standards, as we know, are really high in today's marketplace. And they're giving their energy to like fix this problem and set a few appointments, and they want to take action. And if they can't reach you, they're going to reach someone else. So make sure that you're answering your phones. Secondly, I would say make sure you have a strong sales process, because you can get a lot of leads, but if your competition is just a whole lot better at selling these jobs than you are, you're going to miss out. And then thirdly, I would say make sure you have a strong follow-up process for those that don't buy. So if you're running leads and you don't sell, what is that follow-up process? Is it in place? So I would say get those things in place before you're really going to jump into Google Ads. Yeah. And, lastly, Google's great at taking money off your credit card. Like everybody knows that. There's a reason why they make 100 billion a quarter or whatever it is, some catastrophic number that's really big. All right. So I often get asked, hey, we want to grow. We need more leads. Like, what's the lay of the land? What's the next step? And how I answer pretty much everybody is, I don't have like oh, you need to do this, this, this. But I do tend to recommend to get your foundation in place. And part of your foundation is local SEO. That's where all the free leads are coming in. And so part of that is building out your Google listing, regularly posting, blogging. We have quite a service to maximize your local SEO leads, which everyone loves because they're all free leads. Get lots of 5-star reviews on a regular basis. That's one area. The common choices after that online are Google Ads, LSA, or local service ads, Google Guaranteed, and the other popular one is Angie. Sometimes I say the word Angie and people are like, oh man. And a word of advice, I would say also really put your thinking, working on your business and not in your business thought process when you consider these leads. As an owner, you need to be very objective as to how you're spending your money and what kind of return on investment that you get from your money. Like Angie, for example, it can be very frustrating because, sometimes half the leads that you buy, you're not even getting in touch with. Sometimes you call them immediately because you know how important it is to follow up on these leads right away. And sometimes you'll call someone like as soon as you get the lead and they already bought from somebody and you have to pay for the lead anyway. So there could be a lot of emotion and frustration when it comes to Angie or any lead sources, quite honestly. But you really have to look at, okay, big picture, like each month and each quarter, what did I spend and what are our net sales? Where's the bottleneck? What can we improve? That's how you got to manage your money with advertising. But today, we're just going to be focusing on pay-per-click Google Ads stuff. All right, so should pay-per-click, and I interchange the phrase pay-per-click, which it kind of shows you how big and how important Google Ads is. It largely dominates spend when you're talking about pay-per-click. There is the Microsoft platform, but I'm primarily just going to be referring to Google Ads today. So some of the advantages, like for example, I spoke with someone yesterday evening on the East Coast. They are new to waterproofing. They're not new to home improvement, and they're spending a lot of money on Google Ads. They don't have those other components developed like local SEO and their whole online presence. They do for their other home improvement company. But for them, if they want to get kind of a quick start and get their ads up and running, that's what they did. And Google Ads is great to just boom, like your ads are showing. You could kind of show them wherever you want to. You could pick the areas. You can pick your ads. You can pick the cities. One of the downsides of SEO and local SEO is it can take a little bit of time to build that stuff out. Where Google Ads, and sometimes people refer to it as the rich man's way to advertising. It's a lazy rich man. It's just throw money at it and your ad shows up. It could be pricey, but once you figure it out, you could really scale. And because there's such a demand for Google Ads and for Google, if you play the game right. So those are some of the advantages of Google Ads. I want to talk about why most Google ad campaigns fail. And we've taken over many, many Google Ads campaigns over the years. And this is some of the things that we see. Super complicated Google ad campaigns. And we'd prefer, of course, we'd prefer to take over a well-structured, well-set up Google Ads campaign. But there's a reason why people are changing agencies. And a lot of times Google ad accounts are set up so poorly, they make them very difficult to manage. We've seen this the most when an account comes from a very large company. And sometimes very large companies just kind of use raw Google data and just throw it into an account. And there's not much accountability. And once it's complicated, it kind of, you could make some tweaks, some obvious tweaks here and there, but it's very difficult to optimize. So it's got to be laid out in such a way so that each service and everything that you're doing can be optimized. So simplicity wins with Google Ads because it allows you to optimize over time. Sometimes I've seen this more when people go in-house with Google Ads. Be very careful if you're like, oh, I can figure out Google Ads. I watched a webinar. I'm a master of Google Ads. I'll figure it out. just be careful because you may not understand the auction process or you I mean, it just there's a lot inside Google Ads. Yes, they are adding AI and they are kinda coaching people more. Personally, I never trust Google. They're great at making a profit, right? And so all those suggestions that they make to optimize their account, like a lot of them are great. Sometimes they find things that we wouldn't find, or it would take a lot more time to find them. And sometimes, I mean, these are just computers. They're just making recommendations that are going to benefit Google and not you. This is a common one. Just basically have one ad group and put everything under one ad group. And that typically, I mean, that's like just a super common rookie mistake. Like someone that does that, they just don't understand Google Ads. Not like putting text in, or sorry, keywords in with certain ad groups with certain landing pages, like another common mistake. The last common mistake that we see is the landing page is not optimized for conversions. Like there's either not enough knowledge or not enough work went into it, or all the common converting strategies that should be on a landing page or not on a landing page. So those are the common mistakes. Budget's too small. I mean, think of it this way. You have some big waterproofing companies that are spending, 20, 30, sometimes $40,000 a month in Google Ads. And then you're going to come in and, try to spend $1,000 a month on Google Ads. Google loves money, so they're gonna show favoritism to the accounts that can blow through money faster. So, our minimum is, 2,500. That's where we want people to start. And we try to do the least amount as possible until we get traction, and hopefully you have all those other things set up where you're answering the phone, you have good follow-up, strong sales position. And then you can scale that way, but you have to be able to make a profit from what you're spending. So this is just kind of an example of like throwing all your keywords in there and sending it to a homepage, yourcompany.com. It's typically not the best way to optimize it. Now we have done some testing on this, and sometimes we actually do get a decent return, like the best return on a homepage. That typically happens with well-branded companies. So when the person lands on that page, they, they know exactly who that company is. So now I want to cover how to set up and structure your Google Ads marketing campaign to minimize your cost per lead and maximize your return on investment. So there's a couple ways to do this. You could either have categories inside your campaigns and you could do the kind of the same thing through ad groups. There's a little bit of pros and cons to this, but if the key is you've got to sort your keywords according to what purpose they are and what the customer wants. So you need like the basement waterproofing keywords with inside the basement waterproofing campaign, and the foundation repair keywords inside the foundation repair campaign. Crack repair is different than basement waterproofing, and there's a different mindset, and you have to be aware of the customer journey and what they're thinking and what they see. And it's all about these little things that you need to be aware of, but you have to organize your Google Ads campaign into groups. Remember, I mentioned it earlier, the rookie campaigns is just kind of throw everything into either one campaign or one ad group, and you're just not going to have an optimal Google Ads campaign with that. So think in terms of like a very, very tight Google Ads account. And even in the ad group, if you could limit your keywords to like 4 or 6 at a time and keep those very, very similar. So this example here, basement waterproofing, basement wall waterproofing, basement waterproofing, I shouldn't say dynamic ads, but all 4 words have waterproofing in this. Foundation repair is a little bit different, but this is foundation waterproofing. So this is sort of like the waterproofing campaign. So that's kind of a tight category in and of itself. Here's a variety of keywords, and These are all just pretty darn tight. We're not talking about mold remediation, egress windows, crack repair. It all revolves around kind of the same topic. Now, a couple notes here. Budgets are set at the campaign level, and then ads are tied to the ad group. So that gets into structure. So you want your ads to be aligned with your ad group because you really got to think in terms of psychology and what someone's typing in and then what they see and what they read. But pictures are more powerful. So you need alignment, and I'm going to tie this in an image in a few minutes here. So how does Google determine which ad gets shown first? If you guessed, and a lot of people think this, you just throw a lot of money at Google, you guessed wrong. And I would say this strategy that I'm going to show you is really how Google became the dominant search engine and outbeat Yahoo and everything else. I think this is really clever. This is a little bit of a simplistic model of how Google figures out which ad should be first, but most of everything that I'm saying still applies today. So let's say there's 4 advertisers, and let's say they're all trying to bid highest or be first for the phrase basement waterproofing. Now, advertiser 1 says, I'm only spending $2 max. And then I'm just going to pick on advertiser 3. Advertiser 3 says, I have a lot of money. I'm going to win this Google Ads thing. I'm willing to spend $6. Now, if you don't know Google Ads, I can assure you that they're spending way more than $2 and $6 for the phrase basement waterproofing, probably closer to 15 or 20, sometimes a lot more than that. But let's go with the 2 and 6. All right, so they're going to take, Google's going to look at the max bid, and then the next important category is they're going to look at the quality score. Now, quality score relates to the alignment between a keyword, the ad, the landing page, and Google's expected performance. All those things relate. So, for example, if in this case, Google's given them a 10, the score is out of 1 to 10. So let's say the phrase is basement waterproofing. The ad is all about basement waterproofing. Sometimes you've seen ads that feel keyword stuff, like they don't read well, but you see the phrase basement waterproofing in there, say 3 times. Google's probably going to give good credit for that. And then they go to a landing page and it's all about basement waterproofing. Those are 3 good alignments, basement waterproofing for all 3. If the phrase is basement waterproofing and they're going to some page about egress windows, like that's a total miss. It's just like a broken path. And then, an ad and a landing page is something different. So Google wants alignment. Now, the 4th thing that I said is Google's expected performance. They're going to look at the history of the account and the campaigns, and they're going to ask, does this company have a good track record? And is this campaign and ad group, does it have a good track record? Does it convert? And that's all going to be factored. So those 4 things, Google knows this account, and for advertiser 1, they're going to give it a 10. Advertiser 3, they gave a quality score 2 because maybe there wasn't alignment. Maybe this company threw in a bunch of keywords and threw some generic ads up and sent all the traffic to the home page. So they gave it a 2. So here's how, now that we have that data, here's how Google figures out who's first, who's second, third, and fourth, and so on. They're going to multiply those 2. So in this case, $2 times 10, they get a score of 20. And then advertiser 3, $6 times 2, they get an ad rank of 12. So advertiser 1 wins. They have the most points. They get shown first. That's how it works. Most everything I said, like, really, really relates to how Google ranks their ads. Here's just an example of quality score, keyword, ad, relevancy, landing page, historical performance, and various relevancy factors. So all that goes into Google's magical formula, and they give you a quality score. Okay, so how do you structure your Google Ads campaign? Use smaller ad groups targeting the various services. So waterproofing is one service, crawl space waterproofing is another service. If you do egress windows, if you do mold remediation, these are all various services. Make sure you have an understanding of keyword matches. I'm going to cover that in just a bit. There's something called negative keyword matches, and those are keywords that you don't want anything to do with. So in our industry, some of the more popular negative keywords are deck waterproofing, shoe waterproofing, boot waterproofing, boat waterproofing, and on and on and on, and a bunch of words that you would never think of unless you did the research and let the computers tell you that. So whenever someone types one of those words in, like you want nothing to do with it, so you're basically saying, hey, Google, don't show my ads when these words are being typed in. You need to write compelling ads that resonate. Like, the role of emotion in sales, like it works. And this is kind of like getting people to click on stuff. So just make sure those ads resonate with people. Leverage, Google calls them ad assets. They used to call them extensions. You've certainly seen ads with like blue links under them. Those are called assets, and you can really make your ads pop and stand out and convert better by using those. And I'll cover those as well. Send your traffic to high converting web pages. So, and test that out. Like we've done a lot of testing on what landing page is going to convert the best traffic. And there's, I'll cover it. I won't go into detail now. Do split testing, and you're always going to be fine tuning and tweaking and running multiple ads and just doing lots of little work. When someone comes on with us, we've done so much of this in our space that we really have it dialed in, which is very different than an agency that's never worked with a waterproofer, and they're kind of experimenting with a waterproofer's money to try to kind of figure out the market. And that is a lot more expensive to do, to go down that path. I would say don't even think about spending another penny until you have conversion tracking in place. You really need to know what's converting, what's not. We provide call tracking, multiple phone numbers, so you know kind of what's coming from where, not only on phone, on various ads, but web forms as well. So some conversion tracking dynamics would be, so number swapping between like pay-per-click traffic and organic traffic and direct traffic. Because I was a contractor for 15 years, I really enjoy running my company in a way that's aligned with a contractor. Like I don't want to take any credit for any kind of branded keywords or direct traffic. That kind of traffic was earned by the owner. Like several of our clients might have billboards up or run TV commercials. And if someone's got a company name in their head and they're typing it, it's not an ad that, yeah, maybe they clicked on our ad, but they typed your company name and you probably ran an ad somewhere, or maybe you saw them in a show. Another example of that is a keyword pool with dynamic number swapping to track callbacks, web form tracking, and conversion tracking in ad campaigns to identify the ad groups where the leads get generated from. So those are just kind of some basics for conversion tracking. I mentioned earlier, our minimum is $2,500 per month, but these are just kind of some important key performance indicators that you should be aware of. What are you paying on an average cost per click? What is a lead cost? And typically we've seen between 150 to 300. It does depend on your market. It depends on the time of the year. What I've seen, the most expensive time of the year is it's after the holidays, and it's like late January, February, like people are just kind of waiting for that first rain and the snow to melt, and they're like backlog's getting thin, and they're really, really fighting for leads, and they're spending a lot of money trying to have a presence. That's when I've seen the price at the highest. So the last KPI is like, you've really got to know, like, what are you spending and what's your return on investment? That's absolutely critical. You just have to be aware of that. So this is an example of a dashboard. I would recommend having a live 24/7 dashboard so that you can see what's going on. You could play your calls back. You could make sure your staff is answering the phone. I mean, this would show you if any calls were missed. We have automation, so if a missed phone call happens, we could send a text and or an email to however many parties you want us to, so you can call back in those rare occasions. I mean, The majority of our clients are really, really on their game with answering the phone. We still see 1 or 2 calls that get missed during business hours. I mean, it happens. Maybe too much rain or something, or someone's in the bathroom or something, it happens. But that's you only miss 1 or 2 calls, in a month, you're doing well. So, yeah, there are a lot of different types of campaigns. I would say the most popular one by far in today's world is Performance Max. And this is where you give Google things like headlines and text and so on, and they will create a combination of ads, and they will try to maximize the number of ads based on how they write the ads. And you've said, all right, Google, you could play around with this phrase and that headline and these variables to make up ads. They all like represent you, and go to town Google and figure out how to maximize my leads. That is the most common. I never trust Google, and that's why people hire agencies, right? Like me, that, I mean, you have to just watch your money, right? So, like I said earlier, not everything that Google recommends would I recommend. If you don't have many conversions or you have a small budget, Performance Max can really struggle because it doesn't have a lot of data to work with. And sometimes with smaller budgets, you're probably going to not want to try to compete against the, 20 to $40,000 campaigns. You might want to be very selective on the type of keywords that you go after. So we do rely heavily on Performance Max, but we don't always rely on Performance Max. And there are other options: search, display, video, and so on. So how to structure pay-per-click campaigns? You've got to break down into various groups. So you could have, here's an example, like 4 different ones: branded campaigns, competitor campaigns. I want to say something about competitor campaigns. We haven't seen a great return on competitor campaigns. For example, are when someone types, let's say you're our client and you say, hey, I really want to show up when someone's typing my competitor's name. I want to say something like, get a second opinion, don't overpay for basement waterproofing, something like that. We haven't seen a great return on competitor campaigns. Sometimes at certain times of the year, we do, but overall, it sounds like amazing. Like, yeah, I want to be right there when someone's looking for my competitor. Usually, if they're looking for a specific company, they're looking for a specific company, and there's a reason why. But service campaigns and location campaigns, these are all, you just remember, think like in terms of tight group campaigns, ad groups. So basement waterproofing ad groups. All these words, to you, it may look like an exhaustive list, but these are actually only the names of the ad groups. And inside each of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ad groups would be variations of these words. Like basement seepage, we'd have several keywords that relate to basement seepage. Wet basement, we'd have 4 to 6 keywords that relate to wet basement. And so you really want to narrow your keywords, narrow the topic, send them to an ad that kind of like reflects back to them. What we've seen is our highest performing ads are often a reflection of the keywords that the person's typing in. So like they type their keywords in, they look at their screen and they're like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. What do you know? Because your net it's been wide, but it's also very specific. So you're directing that traffic to a very specific ad, and then you send them to a landing page and they're like, yep, that's what I want. And that's your best shot to maximize your return on investment. All right. So keyword types. Broad match keywords are basically, you're giving permission to show your ad to any type of keyword that's like, in this case, basement waterproofing. These are like super common, like they're rookie mistakes for like the in-house AdWords person. And they're also like when you're new into an industry and you don't know really what you're doing and you're not like super dialed in, it's kind of common to start with broad match and then go through the ad campaign and identify what keywords are converting. And then once you have that group, then you start like categorizing and saying, okay, wow, like I'm noticing conversions on 12 words. Okay, out of these 12, I think I could form like 3 groups. Then you kind of start breaking off into ad groups, and then you keep running broad match to see if you can find more words to convert. I don't like broad match keywords. I mean, broad match can work if you have a ginormous negative keyword list. It actually, it can be very powerful, but you just got to know what you're doing, right? So if you are cautious and you're like, well, we're doing this in-house, we may not be experts, be very careful on broad match. It's typically doesn't get a good quality score. And I'm guessing that you could like tighten your account way more. Phrase match keywords, you're limiting Google. You're saying, Google, it better be pretty darn close to what I'm saying here. The phrase match can be really good and it's tighter. And then you have your exact match keywords where you're basically saying, hey, Google, do not show my ad unless someone types this in exactly the way that I have. There used to be something called modified broad match. That doesn't exist anymore. These are the 3 main keyword types. And then keep in mind the negative keyword list that I talked about. So broad match is where you really, that's kind of a really loose, you're giving Google a lot of permission. And I would just say words of caution to that one. All right. So you need to write compelling ads. They need to resonate. Use keywords from the search query to match the user intent. Highlight unique selling points. Like, what's unique about your company? If there's a way for you to tie that in, your ads are going to be more effective. The more that, a lot of ads just kind of say like, hey, we're a basement waterproofing, like click on my ad. But those little items, which I'm going to show you examples of, can make all the difference in the world. Have a strong call to action. Certainly you've seen the phrase call now in an ad. I mean, it's effective. There's a reason why that gets included. Use emotional triggers and persuasive language. Like be aware of what is someone feeling actually when they're typing it. A lot of people for basement waterproofing, they've had frustration for a long time and they're now finally sitting down and they're typing something, looking for a waterproofer. What do you think they're feeling? Like try to get into that space when you're writing your ad. Leverage ad extensions, which are now called assets. I'll show you that in a second. Test different headlines and descriptions. And if you're using Performance Max, that's what Google is doing. They're testing a lot of different ads. And so you can identify like what's working and try to leverage that better. Relevance and consistency between the ad, that the keywords and the ad copy and the landing page are absolutely critical. All right, so some best performing ads. All right, so 40 years in the industry, not everyone can say that. Industry leader, number 1, call now, call to action. Now these are assets. Well, Google used to call them extensions. So all these things help perform. The ad performs better. Proudly serving Detroit since 1983. It's credibility, lifetime warranty. Not everyone offers a lifetime warranty. Let's look at this bottom one, since 1983, an A+ rating. It's huge. People like that. Okay, this is a reputable company, number 1 choice. So foundation crack repair, that can kind of be someone might be thinking like, oh, small problem, small price. Maybe it's just a crack. They just seal the crack. Maybe it's only going to be a $300 job. No, we know in waterproofing, the average job is probably like $10,000 to $20,000. But, maybe they do crack repair, so maybe there's a chance. So it's they do a variety of things. And then, I recognize this city. It's right in the main area of the metropolitan area. These are just little things that go a long way. Here's a text ad kind of showing you it displayed on the Google page. Notice it has a phone number right here. Now this one's, I think, interesting. So we've all seen the map show up, and then on the left we have all the Google listings, but the first 2 are often ads. I always find it interesting where Google allows their ads to be shown. It's supposed to be local SEO where everything's free, but it's our platform, so we'll let a couple ads show up there. Now this company, we got their Google rating in here. 4.2 is not, it's not amazing. Some room for improvement there, but people do like to see those stars. All right, so different assets, site link assets here, phone number here. We definitely see people calling right off of the ad. It's something that we track, and it's highly recommend that strategy. So this is from inside Google and a Google Ads campaign, and this is how I talked about assets or extensions, and you want to basically pick everything that possibly applies to you. The one that some people don't always do is price, but we have seen some waterproofers put price in there, but Google wants it to be legit. You don't, I would say play right and play fair with Google, but you want to use as many as possible and give Google as much permission as possible to maximize your account. So here is an example of a landing page. Here's some things that I like. I like that there's this rating here. It's award-winning. There's a patent involved. I like that the web form is here. It's clear. The phone number is here. There's a chat thing going on the side here. Below this page is like pictures that people could say, oh yeah, I have that problem. I'm just trying to resonate and connect with the person. So this is a high converting web page. So typically, in addition to the things that I just said, testimonials are good. If you can include a name on the testimonial, even better. If you can include the person's picture, even better. Any credentials like these kind of things, awards that you've done, that you've achieved, multiple calls to action, good pictures, relevant content, easy navigation on the website, fast loading. Make sure you check mobile. Make sure you have a click to call on mobile. So, because over half your traffic is coming through mobile and it often gets overlooked. So those are some key things you want on a landing page. And then you could test them and optimize them and see what works. So remember, conversion tracking is absolutely essential. Break down your campaigns into smaller ad groups and match the queries. Write compelling ads. Understand keyword matches. Make sure you're paying attention to negative keywords. You should, if you're kind of doing the in-house thing, which I typically don't recommend, but maybe, we picked up a client a few months ago, and gentleman's been managing his Google Ads for like 10 years. Really sharp guy and did a great job and babysat that thing all the time. And, so it can be done, but just pay attention to what you're doing. And you really need to be a student, but you should be logging into your account. And if you don't have a super large negative keyword list, you could see what people are typing. And with a couple clicks, you could add the bogus keywords to your negative keyword list and then apply that to the whole account. It's your landing pages, I just covered that, well-designed, have conversions in mind, leverage those assets as much as you can, and always be fine-tuning your campaign. So here's just kind of a different thought process, different. If you're considering hiring an agency, whether it's us or anyone else, I thought these might be good, helpful questions. So what kind of experience do you have managing Google Ads in waterproofing? Typically, you don't want an agency to learn basement waterproofing on your dollars because there's a learning curve. When I owned my own waterproofing company, I spent my own money and I hired people like Perry Marshall, the #1 author in the world on internet marketing, and Dr. Jacobson. And they taught me how to do this. So I got really good at Google Ads, why I own my own company. What certifications that you have? We happen to have 3 Google Ads certified pros on our team. That doesn't always mean that everything's going to be great. That's just a certification, but it is kind of a basic level. Like if they don't have that certification, I wouldn't go near them personally. This is a good one. Thankfully, things are mostly different, but every now and then I come across companies. How much of your budget will go to Google Ads spend versus management fees? Sometimes there's still some companies out there that don't always tell you how much of your money is going directly to Google and how much they're keeping. The majority of companies that I see out there today do separate the two. What we do here is we put our clients credit cards inside their Google Ads campaign. So Google is charging them directly in $500 increments. And that way there's no question as to where the dollars are going. So we have our management fee and Google has their fees, and we set the budget according to what our client wants. And that's how the money works. So I would highly recommend avoid a company that isn't being upfront and clear with you as far as what they're keeping and what they're spending on Google Ads. What are our targets in terms of cost per lead and return on investment? I kind of give a range for this. I wish I could answer that with great clarity. Like when you talk about return on investment, then you're kind of getting into, well, like what's your average sale price and what's your closing percentage? And, are these just referral leads that you're giving me this information, or do they know anything about it? So, but I could tell you return on investment, you should shoot for something like 8 to 15%. If you can get in that margin, you're doing good for Google Ads. What type of call tracking do you have in place? And then are you tracking, calls and web forms as well? We separate direct traffic from organic traffic from Google Ads traffic, and there's another separation we do. So for each client, we typically have 4 call tracking, and then we provide a dashboard, and they can play those calls wherever they want, and it tells you where those calls came from. Kind of just covered this one. We differentiate pay-per-click calls from organic calls. I believe in give credit where credit is due. So if you have another source of advertisement out there, I don't want to claim credit for that because we didn't earn it. How will you track these key performance indicators, and will you be provided a dashboard? Really good to know. And then will there be specific landing pages so that you can direct traffic to certain pages, or does everything just go to the homepage? Or do you test for that? Those are really good questions. You'll get a good idea for who you're dealing with if you ask those questions. I covered a lot of stuff, a lot of good information. Wondering if you can just jot down 3 things that you think you'd like to apply. They could be questions for your existing agency. If you're doing things in-house, maybe you learned a few things. There's some things to look at. Maybe it's more negative keywords. Maybe it's split testing ads or optimizing more things. Who knows what it is? But what I've learned is more successful companies, they write it down, they take action immediately. And the faster you can implement, the better. Sometimes people get lost in ideas. We owners can be visionaries and we have lots of ideas, but the more you can implement in your business, the more successful you're going to be. So I hope this is helpful to you. If anyone is interested in just kind of answering the question, how's our online presence doing and what are kind of some key opportunities that we could take advantage of? We subscribe to a whole bunch of tools, crazy tools that tell us a lot of how you're doing versus how your competition is doing. And I'd be happy to spend time with you to kind of cover the lay of the land and explain to you your opportunities and how you might be able to improve your lead generation online. If you made it this far in the presentation, please, and you have a Google Ads account that you'd like us to kind of spend some time with you and give you advice on how to improve it, please take advantage of that and let us know that you made it this far. And if you have any questions, we're here to help. We want to see you win. Thanks for spending time with us. I hope that was helpful.